So I think a lot of people are thinking, why is it that U.S. Republicans, political conservatives, now, in this moment, why are they so in denial about so many aspects of reality, like, for example, the fact that we know really well that human beings are causing global warming? I've said it a million times. Why? And you look back in the past and you say, well, there was this Republican Party and Dwight Eisenhower was the president and he loved scientists. And there was this Republican Party and Richard Nixon was the president. And, he wasn't a great guy, but I mean, he did all these pro-environment things like creating the Environmental Protection Agency. Republicans now, it's hard to even recognize them when you consider those historical examples. How did they change so much, and how did America change so much as a consequence? I think in order to answer that question, you have to look at two things. I'm going to be a little bit, sort of nuanced and liberal in my explanation. So clearly, a lot has changed in America. The media has changed, okay? That's one of the most dramatic factors. We didn't have Fox News when Richard Nixon was president. So we didn't have blogs when Richard Nixon was president. So that's been a dramatic factor. But I think that actually you also have to look at sort of underlying psychological factors in the population. And people who have done this, and most notably political scientists Mark Hetherington and Jonathan Weiler in their book Authoritarianism and Polarization in American Politics, have done this. And what they say is that the Republican Party has become more psychologically authoritarian. Right, what does that mean? We hear that word, and it's a very, very negative, pejorative word. Political scientists have studied a certain personality of person. It's called an authoritarian. There's a lot of research on it. And basically the attribute of being an authoritarian is you're very intolerant of ambiguity, of nuance. You want concrete answers. And you're very also intolerant of difference. People not like you, people who do things in a different way than you. You think there's one way, and it's my way or the highway. And you don't like complex explanations for things. You want it laid out straight. Authoritarians are also known to follow strong leaders, to submit to authority. When it comes to political views, all right, they tend conservative. They tend to be religious fundamentalists. They tend to want to be very, very tough on crime, pro-death penalty, okay? But also, you're going to get a lot of this traditional family and, resistance to things like gay marriage in there. A lot of, support for war, like the Iraq War. That's an issue that authoritarians felt very strong about. All right. What Hetherington and Weiler show is that this group of people have always been in America, but they used to be much more politically split between Democrats and Republicans. And what happened, it was called the Republican Southern Strategy. The South used to be Democrat. But by playing on culture war issues of the sort that activate authoritarians, get them riled up, okay? Things like race, things like the death penalty, things like being tough on crime, and trying to depict liberals and Democrats as unable to deal with these issues. Essentially, the South was picked off, and the authoritarians shifted to the GOP. What they then go on to argue, and which I also agree with, is that once you have authoritarians clustered to one party, you have polarization of America because authoritarians don't like to compromise. It's only one way. There's only one right way. And I think that that helps to explain a lot about why the United States is so divided, and also why you get so much clustering of denial of reality on one side of the aisle. And that's because it's authoritarians thinking that, they're right all the time, and they're not, but they're sure of themselves.
Good.